just a little something to get you in the mood. Now, you may notice that the orchestra behind me is missing quite a few of the instruments you just heard on those recordings. There are no woodwinds back there, no brass players, no percussion for a change. And that's because we're not playing a symphony tonight, but a string quartet, which only includes 2 violins, 1 viola, and 1 cello. Sounds like this. If a little sparse for such a large room. That music was composed by Beethoven in Vienna in the year 1810. Its opus number is 95, but it's far, far better known as the Serioso Quartet. Now that serious part in the title comes from the 3rd movement. Beethoven writes the tempo marking Allegro assai vivace ma serioso, or quite fast and lively, but serious. This disclaimer is pretty important and unusual because normally the 3rd movement of Beethoven's quartets are a lively scherzo movement. They're humorous, they're lighthearted, completely the opposite of serious. But more on this in a minute. For now, we're going to jump ahead almost 100 years. We're going to still be in Vienna. And another famous symphonist, Gustav Mahler, has just been appointed conductor of the Vienna Philharmonic. In his first season with the Phil, Mahler decides to expand the Serioso Quartet and use it on one of his orchestra's concerts. And since he has this incredibly famous orchestra, the Vienna Phil, he has one of the best concert halls in the world, and he has kind of a habit of doing everything on a huge scale. He says to himself, 4 players are good, 40 must be even better. And let's throw in a few basses while we're at it. That's a big sound. One little thing, a technical thing that you should be aware of. When we string players play a quartet, which is 4 players, it's already extremely difficult. You have to play your part really perfectly, and you still have to mesh it in with the other 3 players in the group. What Mahler has done is give the same part to each member of each section of the orchestra. Every first violinist, for example, plays the same part in unison. So, if you're a first violinist and you're playing Mahler's arrangement of the Serioso Quartet, you have a lot of things to think about. One, you have to master your own part, just like you would in a quartet. You have to play that part exactly in unison with the other 11 players, some of whom you probably cannot see because they're sitting behind you. You still have to play perfectly together with the second violins and the violas and the cellos, and now we have basses to deal with as well. And then, of course, we've got this guy up on the podium waving his arms around, and you have to be with him too. He gets a little cranky. So it's not surprising that it takes a Vienna Philharmonic or a New World Symphony to pull this off. Now, here's what I find interesting about all this. Beethoven wrote 16 string quartets, each one utter masterpiece. And the Serioso is the only one that Mahler decided to arrange this way. And I was wondering, why that was. Maybe it was just his favorite quartet. Maybe it was his girlfriend's favorite quartet. He was trying to score some points and impress her. Or maybe he was just under a deadline, and like conservatory students, he opened the score of the complete quartets, flipped to the table of contents, and just found the shortest one in the book. I think it has a little more to do with what was going on in Beethoven's life when he wrote the piece. Just for comparison, this is the quartet Beethoven wrote only a year before Serioso. Pretty light stuff. Then a year later, the Serioso. a little different. This happens to be my favorite part of the piece right there. And you have to ask yourself, after hearing